Hello, and welcome to The Fridge.
The podcast where we toss all kinds of random thoughts and ideas into one big conversation.
We're three college students who talk about anything and everything, from the weird to the wild to the totally random.
It's like that moment when you open your fridge and see whatever leftovers or snacks you can scrounge up. Except, we're serving the good stuff.
No topic is off limits, so grab a seat and let's dive into whatever we've pulled out of our brains this week.
Buckle up, get ready, and let's see what's in the fridge.
Yo, 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 welcome to The Fridge.
Yo, guys, this is happening. This is real right now.
How
Wow,
we
we're
doing, gentlemen?
We're doing good. I mean, this is kind of crazy to think that our idea kind of came to fruition here. I'm not gonna lie.
For real.
When did this kind of start? What was this? When we
I'd say back right after we got back in January.
that's when it happened.
Yeah, little
Like,
idea
we talked about
formation.
it.
Talk about it and left the group chat, and now we're here. Look at that.
that's kind of crazy to think about. I'm not gonna lie. How's the semester starting for everybody?
So far, so good. No complaints on my end. Everything's been relatively easy. I have one half semester class, so that's wrapping up. I had a midterm earlier this week. A little bit unfortunate. I did fine, but I wasn't necessarily too thrilled about having that so early in the semester.
Early half semester. I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's midterm season. Classes aren't bad. Tests are going well. Not complaining over here. How's it been going for you?
Yeah, so I kind of stepped into the space of like a lot of online classes this semester, and
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie, the discussion boards are kind of whack.
I'll second that.
Each course kind of has its different rules, so to speak. So take that as you will. But glad to hear semesters are going great so far.
Likewise.
So being the pilot episode, I guess we don't really have a structure to anything quite yet. So we're still in that
We're learning as we go.
mode of figuring things out, which is definitely something we're gonna have to kind of get a wraps on as we go on into things. It's kind of a blast of the past. I don't know if you guys saw this. The iPod is apparently coming back.
Let's go.
I don't know about you guys. I originally saw it on Twitter, and somebody said, "Imagine if this device came back," and it actually got a lot of.
Is this like a confirmed rumor, confirmed leak from a reliable source?
So if you guys check the link that I just dropped to you guys can kind of read into it a little bit. It's an article from 9 to 5 Mac. Really, really interesting. I don't know what the modern iPod would even look like. Is that not just a modern iPhone at that point?
So I will tell you, growing up before I had an iPhone, the iPod was my go-to device. I had, I think, maybe the 4th generation, and then I had the 6th and 7th generation of those. As a kid, I can tell you the different colors was the highlight. I would each year or each time I got a new iPod, I would get a different color. I wouldn't be too shocked for Apple to come back with something like this into the market. I know the iPod Nano, especially the one with the screen, that with basically a smaller version of the bigger iPod. I had that, and I went to camp where we weren't allowed devices with screens, so to speak, and this was a great go-to. It had music, room for videos, and whatnot. It was fantastic.
So it had a screen and you broke the rules.
Well, yeah, but it was allowed.
All right, just want to know that real quick.
I actually my first iPod was the one with the screen. Do you guys remember had like a silver button on the back? I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. I think it was originally like for a lanyard.
Oh, I do know.
It
Was it
did-
the one with it had a little clip too?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
What was that one called?
I don't know. That was like early because then there was something where you could like add data to an iPod, and at that point it becomes an iPhone.
iPod
so
Shuffle? Was it the Shuffle?
no, I think the
No?
Shuffle was early. I could be. I might have been. I think there was some sort of iPod Touch. I don't know exactly what it was.
Okay.
Interesting though.
I mean, real question though: if they bring these iPods back, are we buying those? Are those something that we want?
is that something
in
like if
society?
you guys
Is it
had
something
kids?
you need?
I was gonna say, is that something you'd get your like kids, like the precursor to an actual phone?
I think it's a precursor to an iPhone. That's kind of how I grew up with it. I had an iPad and I had an iPod, and it kind of brought me into the whole realm of responsibility and whatnot. I can tell you the iPod definitely taught me responsibility. It was at the time, all things considered for a young child. It's an expensive device, and
But were you like sending messages?
yeah, absolutely.
So it, in theory, you could have just had a phone when you could have had.
Why would I have? I don't need a phone when I was 6 years old, though. Who do I have to?
You also need an iPod.
But yeah, I was
Oh,
gonna say
okay.
if you're sending messages and communicating.
But it's
who
also
are you
for-
really communicating with though? Your
Also-
parents?
I would say my parents are probably
sister?
my closest friends at the time. My couple of best buds from elementary school and whatnot. But it also had apps, games you could play on it.
So let me throw this one at you. In today's world of iPhones and like iOS and software, right?
Sure.
iOS has enabled so many parental controls that it
You just
may.
take away the phone calling capacity on a.
I was
on a
gonna
real
say, or
Why-
maybe
but-
limit that, and then
but
it's
why-
pretty much an iPod. but
Why
they
would
can-
you spend $799 on an iPhone, or sorry, $699 on an iPhone when you can buy an iPod for $299?
phone. Well, at some point, aren't you going to
Ooh.
grow old enough that you're going to want to call someone anyways?
But by
you don't
time you-
necessarily
by-
need to buy a new phone and have the newest technology, because nowadays technology year over year doesn't really drastically change. At least not to the point where you can't just go download a new app or go on the internet and look something up to help you get where you want to be.
That's fair, but think about, I don't know, maybe your child is 5-6 years old. You want to get them a device, whether that be a phone or an iPod, right? The iPod, I would argue, would be a little more portable. It's typically of a smaller size, less for the kid to carry around. It's not as thick, it's not as bulky, at least from the previous generation iPods that we've seen that Apple has produced. And further to that point, it will probably be about 4 or 5 years down the road until they're going to get a phone. So there will be multiple generations where I would argue it would be worthy to, for short-term investment, spend something on the cheaper side.
over an iPad.
But again, yeah, I mean, yeah, I could see that argument. iPod versus iPad. I think, though, the cheapest iPad is the iPad mini. That's still $400.
That's not the cheapest one. You could pick up an iPad for like $300.
Well, I mean, iPod versus iPad versus nothing. Why do 5-year-old, 6-year-olds really need
That
an
is true.
iPad?
When did you guys-
iPod,
when did you guys get your
anything?
first?
I got my first
phone. Texting and
back,
call
back in
capability.
time. iPhone SE, I believe, back in end of 6th grade, I think. So definitely not 5. I was way older, and I never had an iPad growing up. I think I turned out all right. So
I got my first phone in the middle of 5th grade. So I was, roughly 10 years old, or 9 or 10 years old. My first device, I was probably 4 years old. I got an iPad for the holidays.
I'm not gonna lie. I was an iPad kid before I became a iPod or iPhone kid. I was the the one always on like a YouTube. And
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
you got
sure.
games on your.
Remember the old YouTube app?
Oh
that
my
came standard with the
God,
iPad. It
yes.
was pre-downloaded. It was
Yes.
it was gray, or it was that beige color, and it looked like a TV.
Oh my God.
Those are the days.
Fruit Ninja, though.
Fruit and fat.
Oh, that's way blast in the past.
I would say the society for the younger generation has changed so substantially from when we were kids. Granted, all things considered, we're not that old, but in terms of generations, it's far different for what I think we'll see in the upcoming years and when we have kids too.
So follow up question to your first phones. Were they you said yours was an iPhone, right?
iPhone SE, yeah.
Was yours an iPhone?
iPhone 6 in space gray.
Wow. Maybe
you?
I'm the
What'd
out
you
on-
have?
I had a
Don't
sli-
tell me you had an Android.
I don't know what
Uh-oh.
exactly it was. It was a sliding phone. It was pretty cool. It was like I don't know
Like
what
one
it
of those
was.
LG things.
Well,
with
like
a
you could use
keyboard?
it as a normal phone. You could flip it over and slide it up,
And it had a keyboard.
and it had like a full on keyboard. I
Okay.
remember I was the cool.
I've seen one of those before.
It had an
Those are pretty
antenna
cool,
that you could whip up
actually.
too.
Okay.
I was probably in 4th grade at the time.
Okay. All right. So, a little
So
early.
I mean, it was basic, no apps. You couldn't do that thing
Sure.
quite yet. Then when I got to 5th grade, that's when I kind of hopped.
I
on
remember
iPhone
the
grade.
days of the BlackBerry. Both my parents, for as far back as I can remember, they had the Blackberries with the little pinwheel in the middle thing that you
Yep,
would touch. Those were
yep.
really cool. My parents' first phone, they both had the iPhone 4, and from there, I think they just kept up until phones started becoming decent. They were getting the phone every 2 years. That was the standard upgrade program.
Oh yeah.
Verizon is our carrier, so they would always do the promotion every 2 years.
Again, I still can't believe that it's I don't know. That was kind of a stem off, but still, the fact that iPods are going to pretty much be iPhones coming this early into somebody's life is kind of mind-boggling. to
I
me.
just don't necessarily see the need of having that technology at your fingertips at that age. I mean, 5-year-olds should be learning to, interact with others, play games, learn how to walk. I mean, they should know how to walk, but they can go outside and play some sports with their friends, opposed to necessarily sitting in the room and watching YouTube. But there's certainly purposes for everything. So
Well, and then
Never know.
Well, speaking of things coming back, TikTok is also
they've been in the
apparently-
limelight lately. That's
Oh,
true.
my, do you guys still have it on your devices?
I personally don't, but I heard that it kind of disappeared from out of thin air last week or so.
Well,
I don't know what people's reaction to that were, but
and again, I deleted TikTok a while back before all the kind of crazy news started. So correct me if I'm mistaken here, but TikTok was on the App Store.
Yes.
It got shut down temporarily, and then it got service to TikTok was resumed, but you
Yes.
couldn't reinstall the app. Correct?
yeah, so people who deleted it were
Without the app.
they were screwed.
I have not had TikTok in months. I would venture to say probably closer to a year. I've never seen the need for it. I don't even know why I had it. You would end up in the doom scrolling. If I'm going to end up in the doom scrolling, I might as well be on Instagram Reels.
I was gonna say that's
where
exactly
some of the
where I'm at.
content is a little more productive.
I mean, short form content is really addictive and fun to watch sometimes, but TikTok's definitely a real addictive website that, for some people, maybe it's best I don't have it. But, YouTube Shorts, Instagram
Well-
Reels, all good options otherwise.
If it does come back with the combination of the iPod, would that not be crazy timing?
Yeah, was there a proposed release date for the iPod in the 9 to 5
It
Mac
was
article?
mainly all speculation. I think this
Okay.
is kind of. I don't know exactly where this starts. Again, if you want to look back through that article, you guys can probably pull some bits and pieces. But I mean, I don't know. I think that'd be a crazy dual release or dual launch time. I'm not gonna lie.
I
Imagine they
can't.
start releasing the new iPods with TikTok ready. TikToks are good. I like a
TikToks are
minty,
good.
minty little thing.
That would be rather crazy. But another thing I saw actually was, have you guys seen the Chat GPT competitor?
DeepSeek.
that
I have
the-
heard about it.
I have heard of
Some
it.
stocks went down the other day, but I don't know.
What do you guys know about it so far?
Honestly, not much. I would, venture to assume that it's probably some sort of artificial intelligence model. Fairly similar to ChatGPT, if I had to guess. Ask it a question, it'll respond with something, but that's about the basis of my knowledge for it.
So it's actually, from the short content that I found so far, it's hitting server capacity to where you'll put in a request and it might max out.
Uh-oh.
But I don't know. It's just kind of interesting to see how quickly that has taken up, like how popular it became. Where ChatGPT was more of like a progressive
Sure.
overhaul and like iterative movement.
Well, I think while we're on the topic of AI, what are our opinions on AI?
In what regard?
Just in general, do you think it's a useful piece of technology, or do you think it's going to do more harm than good? Do you
Well,
think it
I
has
think
done
if-
more harm than good?
With responsible use, if people use it the right way, I think it's a great resource. Even more so in our purview in terms of a school sense, using it for idea generation or helping you come up with topics to write about or for assignments or whatever, I think is great. But when you get to a point where you're having it write essays for you, answer questions for you, and just limiting your ability to learn, I think it's definitely detrimental to your learning and point of being in school.
Do you think though that the school should cater how they teach to their students with ChatGPT?
Absolutely.
I think that'd be a difficult question to answer. I don't know how exactly you would do that because they can give you prompts or whatever. And I have some teachers personally who are against it, and it says in their syllabus, you can't use it. If we catch you using it, you'll be flagged and sent to wherever. But there are other teachers that encourage you to use it for idea generation, again, to help you come up with stuff. Because in all reality, when you're in the working world, you can use it. And if you want it to help you think about this or that, it's a beneficial source. It's not always right, and I would say that you should check your sources elsewhere to see what information it's giving you and if it's correct or not. But I think it's definitely a key source to use.
I would second that statement. I think it's very beneficial, especially in the realm of idea generation. I know a lot of times I have my thoughts down, but I don't know necessarily how I want to articulate it. And sometimes ChatGPT or other like-minded AI sources can help me put those pieces together. That said, it needs to be used responsibly. I'm in 2 classes where the use is not outright prohibited, and in one of those 2 classes, it's actually encouraged. The other classes are a complete no-go. And even the type of, AI has that standard phraseology they tend to use, and there's certain words that are typically flagged by AI. You can get yourself in some hot water if you're not using it properly, if you use it at all when you're not supposed to. But on the grand scheme of things, I think it's very beneficial. I think in the workforce, too, it's going to be very beneficial. I don't foresee, it might pose some issues when you look at the job market, especially with web development or other coding and whatnot. I've seen ChatGPT whip up code like there's no tomorrow. So I could see a little bit of concern for the professional market.
But if it could write your paper for you, why would you need to learn how to write a paper?
So yeah, that's the flip side to it. It could be detrimental and harmful
How is that harmful?
because then you're no longer teaching humans.
So do you think that we should change the standards to which we're taught? Because if we have tools that can do this, what would be the point in learning if it can do it? You see what I'm saying? It seems counterintuitive almost.
Well, the fact is, even if the machines or the artificial intelligence, AI, whatever you want to call it, if they're going to do all the work for us, we still need someone to, manage those machines. So it's not like they have all the code in them. I mean, they do to the model they're at now, but things improve, things will change over time. It's how the world works.
So should those skills be taught instead of writing a paper, let's learn how to do this, something that ChatGPT or any other AI model can't teach you?
It's definitely a career path that might be, or a major in school that might be added in the very near future in terms of some sort of development, software development, but more so focused on training AI models opposed to writing code and stuff that ChatGPT is able to do rather easily. But that being said, the human element of things won't be going anywhere, at least in the vast majority of, jobs and such, because at the end of the day, people are more likely to trust another human than trust a machine, even though a machine might be correct more of the time.
Yeah, I agree. There's also been a lot of talk, at least in the aviation field, about single pilot operations, and that goes to the same thing with technology. Do you really want to put technology in the people's lives and everything in the hands of technology solely?
Well,
I think that's very scary.
Well, yeah, and looking at that too, I mean, if it could simplify and maybe you only have one pilot in the cockpit instead. I mean, I'm just kind of to see how ChatGPT could apply to other fields and maybe make our the jobs and careers we have today, maybe change how those are defined or change the roles of what they would do.
I think they should work alongside humans, or AI models should work alongside humans, not in place of humans. And I actually think it should be, I don't want to say the responsibility of education institutions to do so, but I think education institutions, it would be wise on their part to teach students how to appropriately use AI when it's applicable, when it should be allowed, and when it shouldn't be allowed. I think there's a very fine line, and how do you determine that line is a great question. It's probably going to take a lot of time to figure out.
Oh, for sure.
AI, all things considered, is still relatively new, and there's a learning curve. So I think it's finding that balance.
It is new and it will improve. And there are certainly some jobs that will be partially, if not fully, replaced by stuff like this. I mean, even if you look back, 10 years ago, what assembly lines look like at car factories, if you look at like Tesla's factories, it's not humans putting together those parts anymore. Those are all machines. There might be a human in there just overseeing everything. But machines, they do all this stuff. And that was before even OpenAI or any of this AI boom that's happened recently. So there's certainly be changes and stuff that changes in the future.
Well, and on top of that too, it could depend on the school, like you said, depend on the major. And I guess this is kind of a throwback question. Do you guys think your school determines A, how heavy of a course load you take, and B, how open they are to using and integrating AI?
When it comes to using AI,
as far as like a Big Ten school versus like a small private school or maybe an Ivy League?
Sure. I think that to a sense, or to some sense, it's school specific, right? Maybe if you have a school that is on the smaller side and they're geared towards a particular program or a particular academic field of study, for example, a school that's specific to IT and web development, right? There's plenty of those out there. Then yeah, maybe learning to integrate AI into their education is beneficial. But if you're going to a school that focuses on mechanical engineering and automotive research, you probably don't necessarily want AI to dictate that curriculum. You want the people, the students there, to be able to learn the traits themselves, identify parts without having assistance from some sort of piece of technology. Because in the workplace, when you're hands-on, it's going to require you to be able to retain this knowledge and regurgitate the knowledge to apply it in the moment.
Yeah.
Again, I think that AI and stuff, it'll change things. And I think it's a hard question to ask because I think that we haven't got far enough into this yet. I mean, AI has already done a lot, but I think it'll do more. It's certainly going to grow more. There's a huge focus on it in the field. So I'm excited and curious to see what changes are made in the next 5-10 years.
So I'm looking at an article right here. If you guys had to, there's ChatGPT, like we kind of mentioned, is used for a lot of things. One of the questions that it's seeing pop up more and more is which college or which four-year institution should I attend after high school? So
students are asking AI.
Yeah,
this
students
question?
are asking AI this, and I guess then it comes to a question: what does it consider? Like, I guess in your guys' minds, what do we consider helps a student choose between a specific school?
I think that's a very personal and situational question for everyone.
In general.
People look for different things. Maybe people want a good academic system and they're just going purely for education, which is probably the purpose because for the most point, if you're going to college, if you're going to a 4-year, 2-year institution, I think you're going to get some sort of degree or certificate. But there are also people probably choose to go to schools for other reasons, such as, good sports or good social life or many other things that add to the decision that you make. So I don't think there's a one-size-fit-all solution for that.
In regard to like big schools and small schools, I guess, rather, would you say that there's some general characteristics that people are looking at specifically, or?
I think you can make any small school big or any big school small. So again, I think it's really a person-to-person basis, and I think it's impossible for AI, even if you gave it as much information about you as you could, I think it's hard to make a personal decision for you from that without actually knowing who you are.
I agree. I think AI could give some guiding factors into what you personally might want to think about when looking and applying to schools, but I don't think AI should be used in any regard for you making an actual decision. That's something that, in my opinion, at least how it was for me, it was a decision between myself and my parents. It was looking at the pros and the cons, what was best for me, what was best for the school.
And yeah, what were some of those pros and cons? Like, what were you looking at when you were choosing a school, rather big or small? What specific, like, to you would you look for?
Sure. I obviously wanted a larger social scene. That's kind of the environment I grew up in. It was a bigger, all things considered, community. That's new. That's the surrounding and the setting I knew I wanted to be in, living the next 4 years of my life. Both my parents also went to a school of larger size, and my dad and I would talk a lot about his college experience, and a lot of it resonated with me. A lot of it was how I wanted to live my college years. They say college is supposed to be the best 4 years of your life. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that statement. I think there's a lot of years of your life that could be the best years, but it was definitely 4 years that I wanted to make an impact on my life. Some of it had to do with my major as well. I happen to be in a more niche field that doesn't necessarily apply or have academic programs that apply at every school.
Yeah.
So it narrowed my options down a little bit more. And in a sense, I think that made the decision easier for me because it was very easy for me to see what I like and what I don't like given my constraints.
I think for me, it was definitely how, like, I know this is going to sound really generic, but what campus felt most like home. I don't know what it was, kind of like some building off some of what you said, like, the social scene was what you were after. Like, I wasn't going in for anything in particular. The size really didn't matter to me. And, I ended up transferring schools, not necessarily because of the size, but just because of the sheer, like, home ability, I guess, of it, if
Sure.
that makes any sense. But no, I think it definitely comes down, at least in my eyes, to any prospective student, like, where you can see yourself. Like living the daily life, living the daily student life, where you're going to live, dorms, etc. I don't know if that it was applicable to you or...
Right. I think that, when I was looking where I wanted to go to school, the biggest thing for me was that I wanted a big school, but the main reason for that was I wanted more opportunity. And I feel like, for the most part, a big school has more opportunity. You meet more people. They put in more events. There's more stuff like that. So that was a deciding factor in where I wanted to go. Of course, costs, campus life, location, all important things as well. Adding on to that, though, I took the liberty to go and ask ChatGPT what four-year institution I should go to after high school. And although on first attempt didn't really give me a straight answer, it told me, there's a bunch of factors that, like your career goals and academic interests and location preferences, budget and campus culture that affect your decision. So it didn't really give me a specific school. Yeah, let me remember how to talk real quick. But then I asked again, if you had to choose one place, where would it be? And it responded with that it would probably go with Stanford University, which I think is really quite interesting. I think that's a unrealistic place to go for the vast majority of people. Their acceptance rate is very close to zero, if I believe. I'm sure it's
it's very
2%
selective.
or something.
It's the Ivy League that's not an Ivy League.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
that's what I've always heard. I don't know about you
I
guys,
do
but-
want to note that it did say that it's not the best fit for everyone, and that depends on what you want out of your college experience. But that it's just interesting to see that that's where it recommended.
Will you try to give will you give it a specific profile? So maybe, like, can you say somebody who's looking for a social scene, not really sure on the size, somewhere where it feels like home, they like good sports, but it's not required. I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see anything else you guys want to throw in on that profile.
I said social scene feels like home, good sports, and it returned me with USC, University of Southern California. So add some
All in
stuff. I think
California.
it kind of likes California.
I was going to say.
I
What
mean,
happens if you say
Silicon
not
Valley is
California?
over there, so
Outside of California? I wonder what it gives you. Sorry, my interest is piqued now.
no, it's cool. Outside of California, first option says University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. It's pretty cool.
It's
It's
like
pretty
ranking top of the top.
I mean, it's pretty. It's
It
a lot.
actually gave a list. It gave a list of 5 in order. It went with University of Michigan, then University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, University of Virginia, University of Wisconsin-Madison, and then University of Chicago. Again,
lot of
just
those-
interesting results that come
And a
from
lot of those
ChatGPT
schools,
here.
I don't know if necessarily are applicable to the larger population. A lot of those have very small, or in comparison to other schools, small acceptance rates.
or specific major, like you go there for a certain major
Correct.
or a certain career field as well.
I agree.
That's very interesting. See, and I don't know how I would be able to consult an AI like that with my decisions, because I don't know where it would where it would send me.
I feel like it's almost different. I think you need to just talk to human beings, talk to your family, talk to your friends, talk to older cousins, your random aunt, your random uncle who might know you and that maybe he's been to college and knows friends who have been places. Because in all reality, everyone's experience at every one of these schools is completely different. So having some, personal feedback from people on where they think that you would succeed, and then obviously you looking into it to yourself, seeing where you would want to be is obviously crucial in making that decision for yourself.
Oh,
College is a huge decision.
Yeah, just totally into that as well. I mean, and like you said, more factors outside of that will, of course, influence one's decision to pick where they want to go.
Yeah.
And I guess kind of to wrap things up here, what were some specific characteristics like that you guys, like once you found your school, what did you like about it?
I like the campus. I like there being land. There's definitely some greenery in the campus that I go to here. Also, sports is a big thing for me. I wanted, decent to good sports. I've always been a big sports guy growing up, but that's NFL, NBA, so, football, basketball, stuff like that. And also I wanted a place that not necessarily felt like home, but was kind of similar to where I come from. I wanted like almost city aspect, but not necessarily city. So I think I found a good fit, and, I went with that decision.
What about you?
I would say similar in extent. I'm from the outskirts of a large metropolitan area, so I grew up with a lot of community, a lot of things going on, and I wanted something similar, but I wanted a different region in the country.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be away from home, at least a plane ride away from home. So that was a factor that went into it. I wanted something where there was opportunity for me. Again, that was a lot of that had to do with my major. And seeing where that could take me, what companies were around the school to see what opportunities would be given to me. Other than that, rah-rah, I wanted kind of the party scene. I wanted the football. I'm not the biggest football intellect. I couldn't tell you anything too specific about the sport.
That's very true, by the way.
But I wanted to watch it. I wanted to be able to go to the games and hang out with my friends. And so I would say those are probably the biggest contributing factors.
I think for me, and I know this is kind of on the complete contrary to you, I'm coming from a smaller rural area. I definitely wanted something more urban, more metropolitan. So that was one of my biggest factors, is it had to be close to something where it wasn't an hour drive from your closest store. And then the second part of that too is kind of like the diversity of things you can do there. I was looking for somewhere that had a lot of organizations, a lot of clubs, a lot of ways to get involved on campus. And I kind of think that's what made a certain campus feel more like home than the others.
But sure. Opportunities are important. Branch out. Find what you like.
Exactly, right? And so I guess the big takeaway here, what we want, what was something that you guys would advise our audiences, if they're looking for a potential school, or if they're advising somebody who is looking for a potential school, if you could do one piece of advice, what would it be?
Be yourself. I mean, listen to other people, take into their opinions, but honestly, at the end of the day, even, stuff coming from your parents, they're not the ones that are going to school. You are. So you got to choose somewhere that you're going to be happy at, and you're going to succeed. So take your time with that decision, and make the decision you feel is right. And, you'll be happy and you'll enjoy it.
That's all advice.
I would say, assuming you have the means to do so, explore the places that you are interested in. Don't look at one place or, tour it once and say, I'm sold on this place. Look at all your options, because something might immediately stand out to you, and you see something else and you like that better, and then you see something else and you like that even better. You need to really weigh your options, weigh what's around you, and think long term. Don't think short term. Think, what is this school going to give me? How is this going to benefit my life? How is this going to benefit my career? And how is this going to, develop or help me grow personally and develop my mindset? I think college, beyond the education, is an opportunity for you to learn about yourself and learn what purpose you really have in life. So I think that's an important consideration, and how the school can help you accomplish that.
I think the one piece of advice that I would give is, trust in your gut. I remember looking at all these schools and I was super overwhelmed at the time. I didn't really know, can I see myself here? I don't know what I'm doing. Am I in the right place to be? So again, trust in your gut. You're going to see a lot of schools. For me, I after I saw more after the one that I was going to, I knew like, this is pointless. I've already found my school. But I mean, with that being said, guys, I think we did it. I think we officially finished the first
podcast number
episode,
1. Good work,
which
guys.
is kind of crazy. Obviously, huge thank you to all of our listeners thus far.
Thank you, guys. You're coming along with the ride with us, and we're starting slow, and we're gonna
lot to learn, lot to gain, lot to build on. So, with that being said,
thank you all for listening.
We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Peace.